Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the June Keys Penguin Habitat. My name's Michelle. I'm joined today with Susan, and we are doing our feeding of our penguins right now. Now, we have 20 penguins on exhibit. We have 19 adults, 1 juvenile, as well as we do have 3 chicks that are in our nursery right now. And that if you ever wanted to see them, you can go on explore.org and you can actually see our nursery cam. We have 2 cameras, one right up there, right above you. That is our penguin beach cam. And then we have, like I said, our nursery cam that are always live. So if you've ever wanted to see what our penguins do when you're not here, that's the best way to do it. Now, some of our penguins are actually going through what we call molt right now. Gats is our youngest penguin. He just turned a year. He's over on the far corner, and Susan's actually going to be bringing a couple of fish over to him right now to see if he wants to eat. So what happens during molt is the penguins get really large and really uncomfortable. And what they're going to do is completely lose all their outer feathers. Now, we try to make it as comfortable as possible for them. I'm going to make sure that Susan doesn't go swimming with the penguins. So we have things like misters that we'll offer to them, as well as things like making sure that they're nice and comfortable. We'll go ahead and have them get their food. Let's just say we bring their food to them instead of making them come up to the bucket. But what will happen during this time is that these penguins will get really, really large. They'll eat anywhere from 5 to 9 herring. In the case of our penguin whatever, she'll eat up to 30 to 40 capelin. Now, we actually feed those 2 different types. Susan, just so you know, you have Admiral coming up behind you. Getting a little personal. And we actually feed them a couple of different types of fish. Each penguin likes certain types, and we kind of keep note of it. But what we're doing is we actually track how much each penguin is getting. And that's how it allows us to know how close they are to doing things like going into molt. And so what we do is we try to make it very easy for them. Is there a purple on that band? Now, the reason why I'm asking is that I can tell who it is by the color of their band. It's much like a social security number for us. Each number or each color of the band denotes a specific number. And we look at our population as a subset of the larger North American population. So that is paddles. And paddles, if you ever wonder how it is feeding a penguin, it's much like feeding a 3-year-old. So, sir, I see that you have some youngsters. Think of that. But for 20 years, they eat the same way. So we have a good laugh about it sometimes because certain penguins only want food a certain way, like little whatever here. She's our 16-year-old penguin. She only eats capelin, but she only eats it a certain way. And Susan hasn't mastered that one yet. Susan's actually learning our penguins, so I'm keeping track right now. I'm going to hear that one later, aren't I? Now, one of the things that we do, like I said, is keep track of how much everybody's eating. Because once they go into their molt, a full molt, they're going to be kind of going off food. And it's really important that we at least get their meds into them. Our penguins are on a vitamin every day because we do feed them fish that has previously been frozen. And when you freeze food, it does lose some of the nutrients. So we offset that by giving them a vitamin. Now, it's a little warm today, and one of the things that we constantly get questions about is our baby penguins, and when are they going to be coming to the exhibit? Well, one of the things that we're doing right now is slowly increasing the temperature that is in the nursery. When we started, the temperature in the nursery was around 59 degrees because that is optimal for the penguin chicks' health. So what we do is we slowly increase that temperature so that it can get around 75. So when we take them out into our back holding area where we have a small pool, they'll be more acclimated, and it's not as much of a shock for them. But if you want to see their penguins, our baby penguins, we have 3. We have they're color coded, so we have purple, red, and green. And those 3 colors are how we denote who they are in their records. Now soon, that was Petals. Sorry, I'm falling down on my job. Soon we'll be bringing them over to this back area, but we need to make sure that certain stipulations like temperature on the outside, if it's a really hot day like it was last week in the 90s, we won't be bringing the penguins out because we want to make sure that the penguins are in the best of health when we're bringing them over. Now, what we'll slowly do is acclimate them to the outside, and then we'll no longer need the nursery, but then we'll start introducing them to other penguins. Now, we start with the nice penguins, of course, and then we'll slowly work with them going on to main exhibit for small amounts of time, but all of this is done very methodically. We don't want to rush any of the interactions between the penguins because penguins can be, they look really cute and cuddly, but they can have a nasty temperament at times. Those beaks that you see are actually quite sharp. If you ever seen me on the penguin cam in the nursery, you'll notice that I put a towel over my lap when I have the penguins sitting on my lap. And that's because they have very, very sharp nails as well as very sharp beaks. And so to protect my skin, because I do not have the feathers that these animals do, I utilize that towel for twofold so I don't get scratched. And I don't know if you know this, but a penguin can shoot its fecal matter about 3 to 4 feet. So by having a towel on, it saves most of my clothing. You are going so well. You are vindicated. Now I'm seeing if we have one of our education staff members out there. Do we have anybody from education out on the dry side of penguins with the microphone? Do you have a microphone? If you all have any questions, we'll go ahead. Our education is going to grab a microphone. We'll go ahead and take 3 or 4 questions before we leave. So think of those questions. Quick questions for what usually people ask. Water temperature is around 55, 60. Off the coast of South America, there is a lot of cold water. And so the reason why our penguins don't mind being out in the heat is because they know that the water is really cold. And we actually dive this about once a week. And that's how we clean it. So if we're retrieving any type of toys or anything like that, we actually dive our exhibit once a week. The turnover rate in this exhibit is around, there's about 40,000 gallons in this exhibit, and it all gets turned over, meaning that it goes through our filtration system in about 45 minutes. So it does have a very quick turnaround. Now I do see that we have an educator, excellent, with the microphone. Does anybody have any questions? You know, that is a great question. Out in the wild, unfortunately, it's not very long. It's around 8 to 10 years. But penguins in exhibit settings can live into their 20s. We just had one that recently just passed away, and he was 22 years old. So here they get restaurant quality food. Everything, like I said, is fresh frozen. If you are hungry for some herring or some capelin, you could easily eat whatever in our bucket. We can also do things like having a vet on call. If for any reason we don't think one of our animals is doing well, our veterinarians are on 24/7, and we can just give them a call. They'll come up, and we will take a look at them. She's allergic to fish, so. Their knees, it's right above, if you look at their legs, where's Admiral? Admiral's away. I'm going to, whoops, there, I will point it out. So if you look at their feet, it's okay, Ave. It's right above. It's not where you would think. So here's their foot. Here is their little leg. Their knee is right above it. It's actually hidden within the feathers. Yeah. So right about here. Thank you, Admiral. You're so good. Unfortunately, no, you cannot feel them. What they feel like can change. So right now, like I was saying, we have some penguins getting ready for molt, and so their feathers are actually really crusty. If I were to go over to Gats over there, he feels really hard and crunchy. Well, if you see me when I'm working with the baby penguins in our nursery, their feathers are like silk. And it's depending on what stage. Once all of our penguins go through that molt, their feathers are so silken because they are actually waterproof. And they are the softest thing. Not as soft as a sea otter, but darn close. That's a great question because you cannot do it by size alone. These penguins, the way that we tell our penguins who's who is by blood. We actually have to take blood from them to see if they're a male or a female. We have some, Lily is a perfect example. Lily is larger than some of our males, but that's just because she has good stock. Admiral here is a little small for the male or for a male, but he is a male. He's not a female. So it all depends on the actual blood. You can't tell by looking at him. Oh, that there is 33. 33? I have to count. Wait, I'm getting my pinnipeds and my penguins. It's 17. 17. I'm like, wait a sec. I work with a lot of animals, folks. A lot of animals. 17 different species. 2 of which are in the Arctic full-time. The rest are either temperate or warm. Thank you so much for coming out for the microphone. I would like to say thank you all for coming to the aquarium because your admission does help take care of all of our animals. So for myself, Susan, the penguins, we hope you enjoy your day here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, and we hope you see you again real soon.